Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Yesterday with the season 4 update, obviously we got a lot of standard updates per usual. We ended up seeing weapon buffs and nerfs, new content added in, the new battle pass that featured our new weapons with the Super E46 and the Car 98K. But what you might not have realized is that with yesterday's update, we actually got sort of a secret weapon update as well. They ended up adding in 2 other new weapons that you probably didn't realize were even in the game because they didn't officially discuss them on the patch notes page. They didn't say that they were going to be coming day one really anywhere else. They only detailed them as a part of the seasonal content back when we saw the season 4 reveal as some of the new aftermarket parts that were coming during the season. And as we know, a lot of the aftermarket parts in this game basically changed things into entirely new weapons. And that's exactly what ended up happening with season 4. 2 new aftermarket parts / 2 new sort of basically new weapons ended up being added in, and you can actually unlock them right now. So the first of these 2 weapons ends up being a new aftermarket part or new conversion kit for the Renetti. And quite frankly, the only reason you'd be able to actually figure out this was in the game is if you're watching this video, of course, or you saw a post about it, or if you went into the actual Renetti gunsmith and looked at the conversion kits and saw, hey, wait a second, the ferocity carbine kit, that's been there, but now the Jack Intimidator kit is here all of a sudden. And in order to unlock this, obviously mine's unlocked because I've gone through and tested this, is to get 15 headshots using a sidearm. So I just went in with my ferocity carbine kit in hardcore and multiplayer, got 15 headshots, only took a couple of minutes, had that all said and done. That was nice, fine and dandy there. But it ends up unlocking the Jack Intimidator kit, which ends up giving you a semi-auto Renetti option here. You can see it ends up increasing the damage a lot, so it's actually going to be decent for multiplayer where headshots are doing 77 damage, the upper torso is doing 60. Like, it's only a couple shot kill in multiplayer. In Warzone, this thing is kind of tricky though, because it ends up decimating your fire rate and then also the damage range and whatnot. So this is kind of a weird one. Oftentimes with some of these aftermarket parts, it does seem like they're definitely built to thrive more in multiplayer than they are over in Warzone. But if you were looking to use this in Warzone, you got it unlocked. I did want to run through a setup so you at least had something to try it and test for yourselves. Quite frankly, if you throw this on, you're gonna see when I go into the gunsmith here at the firing range, this is as fast as you can shoot this thing. Not super great for a pistol that's going to take a decent amount of shots to actually kill against fully plated enemies. And unfortunately, putting on this conversion kit ends up blocking a trigger. So you can't put on a super fast fire rate trigger whatsoever, which in my opinion makes using this as like a semi-auto single pistol kind of obsolete. Like, that's not going to be the best version of it whatsoever. So instead, I'd actually opt for using the akimbo version here. Now, it's not going to make it that much crazier and kind of limit you to the close range, but at least instead of just using one of these and having this slower fire rate, you have 2 for the slower fire rate. Let's be honest, you wouldn't be using this in like the mid-range to begin with anyways, so I feel like akimbo Renettis work well here in this case. I'd also probably up that magazine to 24 or 30, whatever you prefer more here. It's just a slightly slower mag with the 30 as opposed to the 24, but with the fire rate being that slow, you're not going to burn through ammo in any super fast way at all. Obviously, because we are using this akimbo, we want to focus on our hip fire accuracy, and the sidearm L400 laser sight here is going to be the best for that. Really good hip fire spread min and max benefits coming out of that. And then lastly here, I actually end up going for the short competition barrel because this again helps out with that general hip fire spread and makes you more accurate there. And it also speeds up your mobility a decent amount too with your sprint to fire, with your general movement, your sprint speed. So you end up throwing that on and you get kind of an odd Renetti setup. Truthfully, like I said, I don't think this one's going to be super impactful within Warzone. It's nice to have the akimbo on here so you can spam it a little bit faster and get a couple of extra shots off for the close range, and it's got some decent move speed and a really good sprint to fire, so you'll be able to run and gun with this if you care about using it up close. But quite frankly, this is one of the aftermarket parts that is more gimmicky than anything else. It's not one that I think overtakes even just the base Jack Ferocity carbine kit conversion kit for the Renetti, right? So it's in the game. It's been a secret update now for the past day with season 4, but this is not one that's going to, you know, break the game by any means. It's just a fun little different way to play with the Renetti. We do have a second conversion kit though, our new aftermarket part that's also been added that you might have a little bit more interest in based off of what it is. And by the way, as we are going through everything here today, if you enjoy the video or if you find it helpful, do me a favor, drop a like on it. It's always really appreciated. And if you are new to the channel, you want to guarantee that you never miss anything going on in COD when there are secret updates like this or new patch notes, meta updates that you need to know about, I got you covered on a daily basis, so feel free to hit that subscribe button and turn on those post notifications. Now, the second new weapon / conversion conversion kit slash aftermarket part that we've got is actually for the Lachmann Shroud, and this is the conversion kit or amp that makes it into a fully auto integrated suppressor MP5. Basically kind of throwing it back to like the OG Warzone 1 days where we'd use the integrated suppressor barrel on the MP5, and that was like one of the main meta weapons from MW 2019 for so long. And this is one that I think a lot of players had their eyes on because this is something that should make the Lachmann Shroud a little bit more usable. So again, the only way that you'd ever realize that this is in the game is if you go into your conversion kit or go into the gunsmith here and see, hey, the Jack Decimator conversion kit is now available here. And in order to unlock this one, you have to go through and get 30 kills while using a suppressed SMG. So you could do that in multiplayer or Warzone, right? Pretty straightforward again to unlock that. Then you'll have this fully available. Now that said, if you were to go into your challenges and look in your armory under weapons or under aftermarket parts, you would not see these. For whatever reason, there was no specific mention of either of these new amps being added into the game. So they're just here in secret, and now obviously that we know about them and I'm posting videos, and I'm sure other people will as well, they'll get some more light shown on them, but it is really weird how these were added in. Now, when it comes to building out this, again, unfortunately, it's kind of a tricky situation where, yes, the aftermarket part has a lot of potential. Turning this into full auto, it does end up lowering your damage some because it's taking it from a burst to full auto, so they got to keep it in check. But this ends up having a, fully auto MP5 scenario where if you're hitting upper body shots, it's actually got a pretty fast, pretty competitive TTK with the other SMG options. But the second you mix in some lower torso shots, some extremity shots, it's not going to be nearly as effective. So its TTK will end up dropping some unless you're exclusively hitting upper torso, neck, and head, which with how this build works is not super consistent. You can see this conversion kit absolutely destroys your recoil outright. If you were to just go, I don't want to favorite, nope, just want to go into the gunsmith, I promise, or firing range. If you were to just have the conversion kit on here and you shoot, it's got a little bit amount of recoil. Like, it's not crazy, but it's noticeable for sure. There's a decent amount of movement there, and it's an MW2 gun, so there's some visual clutter. But when you go to build it out, that's where things get a little bit awkward. So initially for a magazine, I'd actually want to go for a 40 round as opposed to the 50 because just behind the face cam here, the ADS speed on this thing is not great. With the 50, it's a 288 millisecond ADS. That's pretty slow for an SMG. With the 40, it's still 278, which isn't phenomenal. It's better, but it's still not incredible. You'll notice our sprint to fire is actually pretty fast, and we can sort of capitalize on that, but I'd go for a 40 round specifically to keep that ADS at least somewhat consistent. Now, the ammo options on the Lachmann Shroud are not good at all. You don't have high grain. You don't have any of these damage range extending or velocity extending attachments for ammo here. Those are all obsolete. Those are all useless. We do have some underbarrels that we could throw on here. Edge BW4 would be a viable option just specifically for movement, helping out with ADS, sprinter fire, strafe, whatnot. DR6 hand stop would do more of the same. General movement, strafe, ADS, sprinter fire. However, as we start to build this out more and more, I'm a less and less of a fan of the recoil control, which is why I actually end up opting for the skeletal vertical grip. This is going to help out your ADS and your sprint to fire, but also give you some recoil gun kick and some vertical control back as well. So keeps it pretty easy to use, but it also ends up helping out with movement. So that's pretty solid there. Unfortunately, the barrels are not good at all. The grapple barrel here ends up extending your range and control, which is nice, but it slows you down even more. Your ADS is 305 with this. That's a no-go. And the Dark Star barrel is absolutely trash. Kills your range, kills your velocity, hurts the recoil. That's a no-go as well. Laser sight, I feel like you have to use. I'd be going for the Kimura laser sight for the better ADS and sprint to fire here. So you're down to a 243 ADS and an 89 sprint to fire, which is really nice. Don't feel like you need an optic at all. It's a clean iron sight, which leaves you only with stocks. And unfortunately, this is an MW2 gun, so the stocks here are not going to do much. For instance, the Lachmann factory here is going to slow you down some, but it will help out with idle sway. That's nice, but 14% decrease to your strafe is not all that. The recoil stock here, guys, buckle up. It gives you 1% better recoil control. Huge gains out of the Mir 56 recoil stock for sure. Mobile stock, you think, okay, that's going to help out with my movement. No, it actually hurts your movement. Your strafe speed is worse, your sprint speed is worse, your control is worse, and your ADS goes up by 1%. Whoop-de-doo. And then lastly, you got the stockless mod, which is arguably the most ideal here for what we're trying to do with this gun, speed it up and make it more aggressive. But it also ends up punishing your recoil a ton, but it does give you a much better ADS. You're up to 220 millisecond, better sprint to fire, better strafe, general movement speed as well. So this, in theory, would be the optimal build. Here's the thing though, when you go into the actual firing range now, the ADS is faster than it was before, but it's still not anything too crazy, and the control, well, it's not convenient to say the least. We went from a little bit more vertical, a little bit more compact there, to kind of bouncy as you get into some of those gunfights, which means that when you're fighting these dummies, yeah, you can consistently stay on target there, but it's going to bounce around a lot more, and it's going to hurt the consistency there, meaning that maybe for accuracy you don't want to run that stockless mod, and instead you're going to end up running something like mobile that's going to hurt your mobility a little bit or something like that, or you go for the factory stock or whatever, and then it's just kind of an awkward build that's not significantly better. Like, yes, it's much more controllable, but it's not going to be as snappy or aggressive. Your ADS is going to be slow, your general move speed is going to be slow. So really interesting that we have two sort of hidden weapon updates in the game right now, but neither of them are all that practical. And I think maybe that's why they were hidden weapon updates. If we spent a whole week going for weekly challenges to unlock one of these and they end up being kind of obsolete in a lot of scenarios, yeah, I could see how that would be a little bit underwhelming for those. Now, I will say the Lachmann Shroud for multiplayer, I think, is a lot more viable. It's actually going to be pretty good there because just the lower health, this will be more practical in those scenarios. But in Warzone, I don't think either of these two hidden weapons are going to be all that fancy or all that competitive even when it comes to the general close range metas where both of these are going to be used primarily. So yes, we do have a sort of secret weapon update out now with these new aftermarket parts. You might want to go through and unlock them just to have them ready. They also might change things because they didn't announce that they were in the game, so maybe it's by accident that you can get them now. Who knows? But when they do end up, you know, in the future potentially getting some buffs and become better, you want to have them unlocked and ready so that you can use them right away. So I'd recommend going through and unlocking each of these aftermarket parts, but in terms of if they're going to be meta breaking or anything like that, yeah, you're probably okay sticking with the general stuff that I'll actually be covering in a video later today, my general top 10. So stay tuned for that, but that's going to wrap things up for this one. If you enjoyed the video, do me a favor and drop a like on it. If you're new here, be sure to hit that subscribe button on your way out to guarantee you're always up to date with everything going on in COD. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.